Okay, we are live and we will get started in about 5 minutes. So just get settled, get your tea, get your coffee. For all the folks who are joining us or about to join us, we're going to have a wonderful conversation today with JT Turner. We do have open captioning today, like we do at all of these streams. So you're welcome to participate in that way. The link is provided. So we will get started in about 4 minutes.
Moises, for some reason, I don't see watch party on my end. Moises? Moises, did you hear me?
Yes, I'm typing it in for you, okay?
All right, I'm going to share your page.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It is 12:30. You know what that means. It is one-on-one time. We are so excited to be coming to you live via our Facebook pages for another session of one-on-one. Ada?
Hey, everybody. Gosh, my name is Ada Cheng, and I'm the Education and Outreach Specialist for Campus Advocacy Network. Gosh, this is like, I'm still trying to figure out. I used to post the watch party, but it didn't work today, but I'm trying to figure out the logistics. So this is what happens behind the scene when we try to connect with people individually. At this time with the COVID-19, there is a tech issue that we have to solve. There's so much that we need to do behind the scene. But this is what we do with one-on-one with Ken and GSC. We want to build connection and community, one interview, one person at a time. So Moises, I'm going to let you talk about this project and introduce our guest today.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. Once again, we're here together, Campus Advocacy Network and UIC's Gender and Sexuality Center, a partnership that really is about bringing folks together from the campus community so that you get to meet them a little bit more and get to experience their journey, the journeys they've had throughout their lives as they've navigated academia and life, really. So we're excited to be part of it. We're excited to be collaborating together. I am so excited to be introducing our special guest today. The person is our very own GSC director, JT Turner. And I want to tell you a little bit about them. They've been our director since March of 2019, but they've also have worked at other institutions, and most recently Northwestern University, where they were doing multicultural affairs, specifically focusing on LGBTQ people. As a scholar practitioner, their focus is really thinking about the intersections of race, gender, and sexuality. And they've done a lot of work in academia and beyond. They've served as they've served on the executive board of the Consortium of Higher Ed LGBT Research Professionals, as well as led a team in the ACPA's Commission of Social Justice Educators. Lots of work. They consult with nonprofits, businesses, religious institutions on how to make more inclusive environments. They have a master's degree in college student personnel from Western Illinois University and a bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor in American Studies from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And if you didn't know, they've also studied Master of Divinity program at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary, specifically focusing on queer theory. And JT is just pretty fantastic. They're an avid hip hop fan, they're a foodie, and they enjoy reading nonfiction. So it's just really exciting to have them here. Welcome, JT.
Thank you. It's glad to be here.
JD, don't look so serious. We're going to have fun.
Well, y'all make me nervous, y'all reading all that biographical stuff. I'm excited to be here. Y'all are my favorite people to talk to at UIC. So.
You're going to show vulnerability and emotions.
Yes.
We're good. So
I'm open up.
Before I ask you the first question, I have to say, JT is very popular. I posted on Facebook and people are liking the post and making comments from people who normally don't respond to my posts. So it's all JT's charm. So welcome, JT. I hope you get our viewers up, right?
I think that's all YouTube, but thank you for having me.
So JT, actually we know each other a little bit, not so much. So I'm really excited to have this opportunity and talk to you more. So this is the first question that we ask our guests, and you can take it however you want to. What were you like when you were a student? You can, set a setting in graduate as a college student, right? What were you like as a college student? Or you want to take it way back to your childhood, however you feel comfortable. So what were you like as a student?
I think I'll talk about college. I think as a college student, I was just starting to really come into myself in a lot of ways. I think I was seen is the word that I'm resonating with. I think I was like seen, which is kind of an awkward word to use, right? But it was the first time I think I really felt seen with my peers, with teachers. I think I spent a lot of time. I was kind of a shy, kind of loner kind of kid. And I think when I went to college, like I started to make friends. I was starting to date. I was really starting to get into like my art and music in a new way. I was a rapper. I was in a rap group in college. And so, yeah, it was starting to feel like I was coming into myself, my masculinity in a new way, my queer identity. And so, yeah, I was felt seen. I looked in the mirror and I was starting to develop my own sense of identity. So I felt really good. I think academically, I was taking different courses and really starting to get a sense of like what I wanted to study, what I was interested in, what I was passionate about, which was a lot of like the social sciences. So yeah, I think college was that moment for me.
You mentioned the word sing. It's really important because a lot of students, when they attend our events, including GSC's event and Ken's event, I will ask them how they feel. They will say sing, right? And what does that mean? Elaborate on that. In a sense, what was the college context that made you feel? And it's all about feeling, right? What made you feel seen? What was it so different from the say in high school that you didn't feel that you were seen?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think honestly, I think a lot of it was just, I think people recognizing things in me that I always kind of knew were there, but no one had taken the time to just kind of mirror back to me, right? So no one in my family, no one in like my family circles. And so it was getting to college and it was like peers in college, it was girls being like, oh, I kind of like you. You know what I mean? It was like, you like me? You think I'm attractive? I was like, oh, thank you. You know, I kind of like that thing about you too. I like my dimple. Or it was peers being like, oh, you rap? Oh, like I rap too. Oh, you kind of got skills. I like your skills too. And we were making songs together and performing together. Or it was professors being like, oh, I'm seeing that you have an interest in this and you should consider taking this class. Or really kind of pulling me towards certain like authors or topical interests, right? And having conversations with me. And so just taking an interest or noticing certain things about me. And as a young person, I have been so ultra independent and so on my own for so long. And you don't really necessarily have people noticing things about you. And so, yeah, just being in an environment and having staff on campus who took the time to be like, hey, come to this event, or have you considered joining this club, right? Or going to a multicultural center and people being like, hey, have you thought about yourself in this way? Or like, as a young queer person, like, have you thought about your identity in this way? I'm like, I've never had anyone sit down and talk to me about being a queer person, right? Like my parents are straight and cisgender, right? And so having a staff person by the name of Ted Lewis at UNC Charlotte, who's still in the work now to this day on the East Coast, who sat down with me, but like, hey, there was the first queer adult I could talk to in my whole life at 18 years old. You know what I mean? So all these things were like the first moment I felt like, oh, wow, there are other people out here outside of my family circles and high school, right, in my hometown. And that was just mind blowing for me. So that was really cool.
JT, do you think that those experiences would have manifested had you not been in an academic space in the college setting? That's one question. And then the other thing that's linked to that is, what has been the long-lasting impact of those relationships and those experiences that you had? I know it's kind of a lot, but I think that in some way they're linked. What comes up for you as I ask that?
Great questions. Y'all are good. Wow. The first question, do I think that happened outside of academic spaces? Honestly, no. And I think a lot about that because of the work we do, right, Moises, in the Gender and Sexuality Center. I think about specifically LGBTQ, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer youth who, struggle in academic settings or like kind of pushed out of academic settings, out of school for various reasons. And I've been really fortunate, really privileged to be able to like go through school, go through high school, go through college, grad school. I mean, I've been really privileged, really fortunate. But how many folks do I know did not make it through high school, right? And have had very different paths. who are queer or trans, like folks I went to high school with who like had to drop out their sophomore, freshman year. And yeah, like I look at their lives and, you know, some of them have been able to like carve different paths for themselves and, you know, and some of them like, it's just the trajectories are just so different. And not to say like my life hasn't had its peaks and valleys, right? But when I think about some of the like safeguards or protections I've had around my identity because of my education, the protections I've been afforded, like I know that academia has played a role in that. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, it does, and I think it also kind of brings a little bit of the second piece of that question, which is what has been the long-term impact of that, right? So yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure if you wanted to add additional pieces to that.
And I think as queer and trans people, like there's a way, for me, right? I think in college and in grad school, I was always like taught that, you know, there's a way I had to intellectualize my identity, and then it's made, you know, you were special, you were kind of a unicorn, right? And there's ways in which like you could talk about your identity, and there's certain like language you can use, there's certain ways you could perform your identity. And I think that was how you learn to navigate the academy, right? And there's pros and cons with that, right? And some of that I've had to unlearn and unpack for myself. And there's a lot of identities that I think I hold that, you know, in terms of my racial identity, there's ways I had to like perform that within higher education and even till this day, right? And so you're constantly assessing that and unpacking that and unlearning that. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely protected me and safeguarded me and afforded me opportunities. And that could also cause a lot of trauma. And so when I'm working with like students, I'm always helping them think about, okay, how are you showing up authentically? And you know, you don't have to be the spokesperson for everything queer and trans, right? You don't have to be, you're not a monolith, right? You hold a lot of identities. You don't have to be perfect. And so, yeah, there's all that pressure that sometimes we're feeling.
So, you know, something as you were talking, I'm thinking about, you know, none of us are one-dimensional, right? We all have multiple identities. I'm curious that you found your sense of community in college, right? But what barriers did you encounter in college or even in your professional career as a queer person, your own, you know, masculine, right, person and your racial identity? What barriers did you encounter and how did you navigate the complexity of these multiple identities?
I think one barrier I found in college and really in grad school too, maybe less professionally, if that's okay, was, so I've always, I fell in love with hip hop really in middle school. But in high school, I was an avid hip hop head. I wrote, I love spoken word, but I really got into writing hip hop and rapping. And then in college, I was a part of a rap group. And we constantly wrote music, we performed. It was a real passion of mine. And when I went to grad school, left the East Coast, moved to the Midwest for grad school. And I left, obviously the group was still back on the East Coast. And I tried to keep up writing and still stay in contact and was still doing music, but I kind of fell out of touch. And I remember there was a moment in grad school where I was like Googling recording studios, and I found this recording studio in this guy's basement out in the woods somewhere. And I was like going to this guy's house I didn't know, and it was really creepy, and I probably shouldn't have done it. It was probably really dangerous. And there was this moment I was like, this is dangerous, and can I afford this? And it was this moment of like, okay, I think I'm gonna have to stop doing music. Like, I think I'm gonna have to make a decision between school and music. And it was devastating, but it was like, either I'm gonna like keep up with my papers or I'm going to be writing songs all night. And this was before like folks were talking about going independent and social media was big. This is like you either got signed or you like had a career, you know. And I remember it vividly, and I decided to stick to school, and I just started to go the higher ed route, and it was really devastating for me. And I look back and I see some of my friends now who are still doing music and they make careers for themselves. Some of them are signed internationally. Some of them are like, you know, producers now in LA and New York. And, you know, music for me is like that one thing that, I mean, I love what I do, right? But music, whew, like it's a different kind of energy. And I haven't rapped in years, you know. And I see students now who are like rapping or doing music or singing, and I'm so inspired. I think this generation has such opportunities to kind of do so many things at once. And I'm so inspired by that and motivated by that. And that's what I love about working in higher ed. I think you get to stay in touch with, you know, the generations we're working with, the young folks. And I get to use so many of the skills I use as a performer and as an artist in different ways in the work I do now. So that's great, you know, but I think that was a barrier for me, you know, in school, because for a long time I was torn and it was getting in the way of like my academics. So yeah, I think even in undergrad, that was a barrier for me for a while. And you know, it's cool now to see how things have changed. You got artists like Chance the Rapper and other folks who are independent now and kind of carving out their own lane and like not signing these deals and getting bogged down. I think that's really cool.
Do you feel it's interesting. I just, you know, like Moises is also very creative, and I didn't get into art until, in my 50s, right? And even though as a young person, when I was a teenager, like performance acting was my dream, right? I dreamed and wanted to be an actor. Now I know you want to rap. Do you feel that it's sort of graduate school training, this whole process of professionalization, right? This training in our intellects, that's the priority. Yet we sort of the graduate training dismisses the importance of emotion, vulnerability, everything that we want to do in the show. Do you feel there's a part it's about a graduate school training that so devalues creativity, artistic rebellion, right? Transgression, because art really done right is about transgression, right? I said I will let you take it. Yeah. Say it.
No,
say it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's what I was so torn about in grad school, was like there was this part of me that was what my music was about when I was a rapper. I mean, that's hip hop, right? It's transgression, it's bucking against the system, it's social justice, it's that tension, right? And I think that was what so much of me and my group, my friends, that's what our music was about. And then I was in higher ed, I was in academia, which was about falling in line in a way, and was about, you know, order and hierarchy. And it was this new way I had to kind of order myself. And that's why I kind of felt this sense of like, I'm going to have to let the music go if I am really going to be able to get in line with this new career path I'm moving towards. And it wasn't that, I think that was subconsciously more so than literally what I was thinking, but that's what I think deep down, that's what I was feeling. That was the tension I was feeling.
Wow, that's really powerful, JT. You're making me think of the journeys we're on and the way that there's just so much to negotiate, so much to process. Can you share maybe something that, one of the many things I'm sure that you've learned about yourself during this whole time of thinking about your journey around academia, even like creative process? What has been something that you've learned about yourself, and also in combination with like the systems you've had to navigate? What is something that comes up for you when I ask that?
I mean, I think just how important it is to, well, a lot of things, right? I think even just this conversation we're having right now, right? How important it is to like be authentic, right? Because even that part, right? Like so much of what hip hop meant to me is who I am, right? So how do I get back in touch with that and incorporate that into my work, right? And I think so much of the work we do in the Gender and Sexuality Center is about social justice, and it's about authenticity, and it's about community, and it's about all these things that was so prevalent in my music as a young person. And I think that is still alive and well in me. And creativity, right? Moises, you talked about, I think Ada was alluding to that with you, right? Is I think that's so much important pieces of our work. And so I'm so honored to do the work I do at the Gender and Sexuality Center, and that I've done in other places, in spaces I've been in. Also the importance of healing. I mean, that has been and continues to be such a journey for me. And it's been later in life. Like, I don't think I really understood the importance of healing and how hard and painful healing can be. And I wish I had started thinking about it sooner, but that's okay, because here I am. But healing is now so vital to me. And I think it's central to me in everything I do. And how important healing is, not just for me personally, but for like my professional life, my relationships, everything, right? Because if I'm not healing, if I'm not operating from a place of healing, I'm just then projecting everything. I'm operating from an unhealed place. I'm just possibly projecting everything out on everyone, right? All these unhealed possible like traumas or like pain. And that's not the space I want to operate from. So yeah, I think that's been a major lesson for me in life, is authenticity, how to operate from a more authentic place, getting back in touch with myself, back in touch with the kid who used to dream, because I lost touch of that kid a long time ago. And how do I heal and do the work of healing, and operate from a place of healing?
So Moises invited me to, this is a question, Moises invited me to give a presentation with the GSC Ambassador Program to talk to students. And the thing that we talked about it yesterday, the thing I was going to talk about was how I decided to quit my tenure job at DePaul University, right? That whole process, right? What was the process? Now that you're struggling with this, this tension between academia, your professional job, and your art, right? And not that you have given up. I'm assuming you're still doing that on the side, like we all do, right? What advice would you give to a young person today, right? The student who might be, because that's exactly, Moises told me that's the thing that our students are struggling with. That's very common for Asian American students. Their parental expectation for a stable employment, professional job, stability, prestige, right? So go to medical school, business, law, right? Everything that gives you status, respect, prestige. What's your advice to a young person who's struggling with exactly what you were struggling with? What would you say to them?
Wow, that's a great question, Ada. And I think so much of that when I was young came from pressure from my parents, running to like honor the sacrifice they made. Like my mom was a single parent, honoring her sacrifice, right? So I think for me, it goes back to healing. Like I think when I think about, not to assume people's age, the age of students we're working with, but when I think about my late teens and my early 20s, my mind was always running. I was so anxious thinking about what was next for me. All the societal pressure, what I was supposed to be doing, what I was supposed to have by a certain age. I wish I had started thinking about healing then, because I was operating from like such a wounded place, and I was making all these plans from such a wounded place, that if I had started to think about, okay, what do I need to start healing from my childhood, so that then I could start making decisions for my future based from a healed place. Because ultimately I was making decisions that I'm now, like later in life, like later in my late 20s, then I'm like, okay, this ain't what I want. That was all the decisions I'm making from a wounded place, all the stuff my parents were telling me I needed, all my family circles. That was all my wounded place, right? And so now in life, now I'm starting to really do this deep kind of healing work. I'm like, all that stuff is not really what I wanted. That was for society, my parents, our family circles, all the messages that we receive, right? And I get it why society tells us we need all these things, but I mean, I get it, right? Like there's some sense of order society wants us to have. But for a lot of us, like, we actually might not even really want those things or need those things. So yeah, that's kind of the advice I would give is we all are going to have some wounds coming out of childhood. No matter how great your parents were or your upbringing was, everyone's going to have wounds because all of our parents, all of our upbringing, caregivers, chosen family, everybody has wounds they're going to inflict on us, right? And so think about what are those areas you need to heal before you start making plans for your future, so you can make the best decisions for yourself. I don't know, maybe that's a little heavy.
No, that's actually the truth.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
No, because the work that we do at Camp with survivors, right? Or it's like sometimes when I, they produce storytelling shows, invite people to the shows, and I see a lot of wounded souls walking around.
Thank you, Ada.
Right? And that really is the case, including myself. And I'm in my 50s. I still don't feel, I'm still projecting, right?
It's
I'm still, felt from that child.
Thank you, Ada.
Yes, so sometimes when I act, I'm thinking, well, what age am I acting from? And that's a scary thought. Yeah. Am I 5-year-old? Am I 10-year-old? Am I talking to my parent, or am I talking to my colleague? Or am I responding to the survivor? Or am I saying something because I wish my mother had said? You see what I mean? And I literally had those thoughts. Right. And that's the scary part, because healing is not linear. It's not, it's like you don't go from point A to point B. What have you been doing? This is the final question. What have we been doing to heal, and knowing that this is not the end point? And I sometimes tell people this is decades to process. It may never end until the deathbed. What have you been doing to heal?
A lot. Breathing, reading, praying. I listen to a lot of folks, listen to my motivational speakers and like folks I enjoy. I love like pastors, listen to like sermons, like folks I trust. Hanging out with kids, babies, is really healing for me. Going on walks. Doing physical activity, but not from a place of like body shaming or like punishment, but from a place of like what just really feels good to my body. Knowing when it's just time to go to bed and call it a day is really helpful. Like sometimes you just gotta know when to go to sleep. Just like cooking a home cooked meal, even if it's really simple. I'm not the best cook, I'm learning. But like really simple things. And I think just being in space with like friends and chosen family, and also just setting really good boundaries with folks who are in my life, but like maybe I don't need to talk to every day or even every month or even 6 months out of the year. Like just knowing when and how I need people in space and in community with me, I think has been really healing for me. Managing like the energy I have around me, I think has been probably the most important piece of my healing, specifically with family. I think that's probably been the most healing aspect of my journey thus far, is setting really healthy, loving boundaries with family.
And they're the original source of our trauma most of the time. And that's
communicating that to them, right? Yeah.
That's another show for you, and that will last for 5 hours.
At least, right?
Yeah. So this is the end of our show, the interview. Oh my God, the time just goes by so fast, and this is I'm enjoying this conversation so much. I'm going to have you, JD, we will need to have you back again. Moises, how do you feel?
I'm feeling so grateful because I want to say this because I mean it. Like, I'm honored to work with JT. They are a source of so much for me, of learning and vulnerability, and I'm sure that whomever is watching today is experiencing that. So I'm full of gratitude. So thank you for opening up your heart and your journey with us. So I'm just full of gratitude.
And JT, how do you feel?
I feel really good. I love talking to you both. This was really helpful, healing, nurturing. Thank you both for doing this.
And thank you so much. This is the end. And I promise we're going to bring JT back for the hip hop.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. Right. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
this
for
is
watching.
The end of our interview. Check us out, Ken and GSC. Bye until 2 weeks later. See you again.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.